The chamber was older than most stars. Its vaulted ceiling curved like the inside of a hollowed moon, etched with victories that spanned 80 millennia. Banners of conquered species hung in silent arcs, their colors long faded, their names reduced to ceremonial glyphs no one bothered to translate anymore. At the center of it all floated the Imperial War Council, a ring of thrones suspended in controlled gravity, each occupied by beings who had never known defeat. High Admiral Zirith Val listened without impatience. Patience, after all, came easily to a species that measured time in centuries. A holographic projection rotated slowly in the void between them, an unremarkable yellow star, one inhabited planet highlighted in dull blue. Designation Sol 3, the intelligence officer said. Local name Earth. A faint ripple of amusement passed through the council. Again? One of the elder strategists asked. We addressed this system less than a decade ago. Zirith's mandibles flexed in what passed for a smile. Addressed is generous. We observed them. They signed the treaty. Another counselor added. No expansion. No weapons testing beyond their system. Compliance confirmed. The intelligence officer hesitated, a subtle thing that did not escape Zirith's notice. There is irregular activity, High Admiral. Irregular how? Zirith asked, already bored. They have ceased large-scale fleet construction. Instead, they are diverting resources into prototypes. Zirith finished for him. A low chuckle echoed through the chamber. Every young species believes experimentation will save them, a counselor said. They lack the discipline for refinement. Zirith inclined his head. The Empire refined warfare before their planet cooled. 1,000 experimental dead ends do not equal one perfected doctrine. He gestured, and the projection shifted, schematics flickering briefly, crude by Imperial standards. They build singular machines, Zirith continued. Unreliable. Inefficient. Impossible to scale. It is a childish approach. So why bring this before us? The elder strategist asked. Because, the intelligence officer said carefully, their political assemblies have begun resisting Imperial oversight. That earned attention. Zirith leaned forward. Define resisting. They delay inspections. Restrict orbital access. Their communications suggest confidence. Silence settled, heavier than vacuum. Confidence from a Tier 7 species was not merely annoying. It was inappropriate. Authorize a demonstration, Zirith said at last. A visible one. The elder strategist nodded. Fleet scale? Overwhelming, Zirith replied. But restrained. No planetary sterilization. I want them corrected, not erased. The council signaled assent. The decision was logged, archived, and immediately forgotten by most of those present. Earth was one more minor problem in a galaxy full of them. The room on Earth was too small for history. It had once been a weather control center. Now it housed the Earth Defense Initiative's Emergency Council, its walls crowded with screens and tired faces. No banners. No ceremony. Just recycled air and the low hum of machinery struggling to keep up. Commander Elias Rourke stood at the back, arms folded, eyes fixed on the projection before them, the same Imperial fleet, scaled down only by necessity. Thousands of ships. Enough firepower to turn continents into molten scars. They've authorized a demonstration, the council chair said. Arrival window, 48 hours. No one spoke. There was nothing left to argue. We cannot meet them conventionally, another council member said, stating what everyone already knew. Any fleet we assemble becomes a target before it clears orbit. Elias shifted his weight. They're not wrong about one thing, he said quietly. Heads turned toward him. We can't win by copying them. A pause. Then the chair nodded. That's why we stopped trying. The projection changed. A single structure appeared, long, dark, and wrong in ways that were difficult to define. It lacked symmetry. Its surface was unfinished, segmented by adaptive plating that never seemed to settle into one shape. Project designation flashed beneath it. Monolith. Elias felt the familiar tightening in his chest. This vessel violates half the treaty clauses on its own, one counselor said. Yes, the chair replied. Which is why it was never meant to exist. Elias stepped forward. You're asking one ship to do what fleets cannot. We're asking one ship to change the rules, the chair said. A murmur rippled through the room. It isn't complete, Elias said. You know that. Some systems are still learning. That's exactly why we built it, the chair answered. They expect predictability. They expect repetition. We cannot give them either. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered another convo. Another set of projections. The moment when calculations had been perfect and reality had not cared. How long until contact? He asked. 48 hours, the chair repeated. If we wait, they dictate the terms. If we act first, we reveal our hand, Elias finished. Yes. The room fell silent again. Elias nodded slowly. Then authorize launch. Several counselors exchanged looks. You understand, the chair said carefully. Once Monolith leaves Earth space, there is no escalation path left. I understand, Elias replied. This isn't escalation. It's punctuation. That earned a few grim smiles. Command authority will be yours, the chair said. Full autonomy. Elias looked back at the projection of the ship, humanity's quiet refusal to vanish. When I go, he said, it won't take us seriously. They don't have to, the chair replied. They just have to survive long enough to remember us. Authorization codes flashed green. Somewhere beneath the planet's surface, engines awakened that had never been meant to fire in unison. Elias turned toward the exit. Behind him, Earth held its breath. Ahead of him, the Empire did not notice at all. The hangar was silent in a way Elias Rourke had learned to distrust. It wasn't empty. It wasn't calm. It was restrained, like a held breath stretched too long. The lights above the deck were dimmed to maintenance levels, casting long shadows across the structure that dominated the chamber. The ship did not sit on the deck so much as interrupt it, its mass compressing the air around it, its outline refusing to resolve into something familiar. Elias stopped several meters from the boarding ramp. Up close, the vessel felt unfinished, not damaged, not crude, but unresolved. Plates overlapped at irregular angles. Surfaces shifted subtly, like muscle beneath skin. No insignia marked the hull. No name. Only a serial designation etched near the prow, already half obscured by adaptive alloy crawling slowly over it. You're late, Chief Engineer Mara Ilias said, emerging from beneath an open panel along the ship's flank. Elias checked the time out of habit. I'm early. For the launch? She said. Late for denial. He gave her a thin smile. That phase passed. Mara wiped her hands on a cloth that was already ruined. Her eyes were sharp, tired, and stubborn in a way Elias trusted. She had been with Monolith since the first impossible sketches, back when it had been a theory people laughed at behind closed doors. She's awake, Mara said. Mostly. That's not reassuring. She's honest, Mara replied. Which is more than most warships. They walked together toward the ramp. The closer Elias came, the more the ship seemed to notice him. Internal lights pulsed faintly, not in a rhythm but in response, as if sampling his presence and filing it away. How much autonomy are you giving it? Elias asked. Mara hesitated. Enough to survive. Not enough to decide why. That line won't hold in combat. No, she agreed. But it might bend. Inside, the ship was narrower than Elias expected. Corridors curved subtly, never quite straight, forcing a constant awareness of direction. Displays lit as he passed, projecting data without request. Power levels. Field integrity. Probability gradients that made no sense unless you had helped invent them. The bridge was small. 11 stations, no redundancy, no room for spectators. The crew was already there, strapped in, voices low. They looked up as Elias entered. No cheers. No salutes held too long. These were not people chasing glory. "Commander on deck," someone said out of habit. "At ease," Elias replied. "If we start pretending this is normal, we'll miss something important." A few nervous smiles flickered and vanished. He took the command seat. It adjusted instantly, molding itself to his posture, his weight, his breathing. The ship learned quickly. "Status," he said. "Core stable," the tactical officer replied. "Adaptive systems cycling at 30% variance. Navigation? Path locked. Exit vector calculated to avoid early detection. Mostly." Elias closed his eyes briefly. Mostly was as good as it got with this ship. A memory surfaced uninvited, a convoy drifting, engines cold, civilians waiting for orders that never came because his calculations had said help would arrive in time. He pushed it aside. Monolith was not about saving everyone. It was about making sure there was still an everyone to save. Mara's voice came through his console. "Last chance to ask for something impossible." Elias considered that. "Can you promise it won't surprise me?" She laughed softly. "No. But I can promise it won't surprise itself." "That'll have to do." The ramp retracted. The hangar doors began to open, revealing Earth beyond, blue, fragile, indifferent to the arguments fought in its name. "Crew," Elias said, his voice steady. "We are not here to win a battle. We are here to introduce uncertainty." A pause. "If you wanted safety," he continued, "you chose the wrong assignment. If you wanted meaning, you chose correctly." No one spoke. They didn't need to. Launch. The ship lifted without drama. No roar. No flare. Space folded gently around it, accommodating rather than resisting. Monolith slipped free of Earth's gravity like a thought let go. As the planet fell away behind them, long-range sensors began to fill with signatures. Thousands of them. Organized. Disciplined. Ancient. The Imperial fleet waited ahead, unaware, unbothered. "Contact in 30 minutes, navigation said. Elias watched the data scroll, the probabilities shifting as Monolith processed what it saw. "Bring us time," he murmured, echoing words spoken too often lately. The ship adjusted course on its own. Elias didn't stop it. Somewhere in the vast formation ahead, High Admiral Zirith Vol prepared to correct a minor inconvenience. He had no reason to hurry. No reason to doubt. Monolith accelerated, its systems aligning, its unfinished ideas sharpening into intent. One ship moved to meet an empire. And for the first time in generations, the galaxy was about to learn the cost of certainty. The Imperial fleet detected the human vessel at extreme range. It appeared on sensors as an anomaly first, a mass reading that refused to resolve cleanly, an energy signature that fluctuated without pattern. Automated systems flagged it, then downgraded it, then flagged it again. By the time it was identified as a ship, most of the fleet had already dismissed it as irrelevant. On the command deck of the flagship Ascendant Will, High Admiral Zirith Vol regarded the projection with mild curiosity. "One vessel," an officer reported. "No escort. No supporting fleet." Ziritha's mandibles clicked once, amused. "They've chosen symbolism over survival." "Orders, High Admiral?" "Open a general channel," Zirith said. "I will be generous." The channel opened. Static resolved into the calm interior of the human bridge. No banners. No intimidation displays. Just people, strapped in, watching. "This is High Admiral Zirith Vol of the Galactic Empire," he announced. "You are in violation of Imperial restrictions. Power down and await inspection." Elias Rourke met the projection's gaze. "Negative." The simplicity of the response caused a ripple of quiet disbelief across the Imperial deck. "You misunderstand," Zirith said patiently. "This is not a negotiation." Elias tilted his head slightly. "We understand perfectly." The channel cut. Zirith stared at the empty projection for a moment, then gestured dismissively. "Fire a corrective salvo. Minimal output." Across the vast formation, weapons arrays aligned with mechanical precision. Energy gathered, harmonized, and released. The volley crossed the distance in seconds. On Monolith's bridge, no one flinched. Impact in 3. Tactical reported. 2. 1. The weapon struck. Or tried to. Space rippled. Not violently. Not dramatically. It bent, as if reconsidering its obligations. The energy streams stretched, thinned, and slid aside, dispersing into nothing before they reached the hull. Silence followed. On the Imperial flagship, alarms did not sound. Systems reported successful discharge. Target damage assessments, however, returned blank. "What happened?" an officer asked. Before anyone could answer, a new alert flared. One of the Empire's forward cruisers, an ancient, heavily armored vessel, simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion. No debris. One moment it occupied space. The next, that space was empty. "What?" someone began. "Report," Zereth snapped. "Cruiser Vath Prime is gone, High Admiral. No residual energy. No transition signature." Zereth leaned forward. "Impossible." On Monolith, Elias exhaled slowly. "First adaptation complete." The ship's systems reported voice neutral. "Enemy energy profiles cataloged." "Good," Elias said. "Don't get comfortable." The Imperial fleet shifted. Formation tightened. Pride gave way to caution. "Escalate," Zereth ordered. "Full engagement." This time, the Empire did not hold back. Thousands of weapons fired in disciplined sequence, overlapping fields designed to overwhelm any known defense. The void lit with converging force, a storm of perfected destruction. Monolith did not dodge. Instead, it changed. Its whole geometry flowed, panels reconfiguring mid-impact. Fields emerged where none had existed moments before. Energy struck, fed data into the ship, and was rewritten into something else. Imperial destroyers at the edge of the formation began to fail. Systems flickered, then died, as if their internal logic had been quietly undone. "They're targeting us without firing," an officer shouted. "How?" another demanded. Zereth's confidence wavered, just slightly. "Adjust frequencies. Cycle doctrines." They did. The Empire had answers for everything. Monolith answered faster. Each attempted countermeasure only gave it more to learn. Every engagement refined its response. It did not repeat tactics. It evolved. On the human bridge, tension tightened but did not fracture. "Enemy command nodes identified," Tactical said. "They're trying to compensate through hierarchy." "Of course they are," Elias replied. "They believe in control." "Orders?" Elias watched the data streams converge into clarity. "Open a channel. Direct. To their admiral." The projection flared to life again. Zereth's image appeared, mandibles rigid, eyes sharp with something new. "This ends now," Zereth said. "You have demonstrated an anomaly. It will be corrected." Elias regarded him steadily. "You assumed we were behind you," Zereth hissed. "Arrogance." "No," Elias said. "Direction." A tremor ran through the Imperial flagship as another vessel vanished, not destroyed, not disabled, simply removed from the equation. "You built perfection," Elias continued. "We built questions." Zereth cut the channel, fury flashing across his features. "Target their core," he ordered. "Everything." The Empire complied. Monolith absorbed the onslaught and responded not with force, but with precision. It struck relay ships, coordination hubs, vessels whose loss fractured command coherence. The fleet's perfect formations dissolved into confusion. "High Admiral," an officer said, voice tight. "We're losing synchronization." Zereth clenched his claws. For the first time in centuries, doctrine offered no guidance. On Monolith, the ship's systems hummed, alive with possibility. "Adaptive threshold exceeded," the ship reported. "Permission to implement autonomous strategies." Elias hesitated for half a second. Granted, he said. The ship moved, not through space, but through expectation. Imperial sensors struggled to track it as Monolith appeared where it should not have been, striking where defenses were weakest, vanishing before retaliation could lock on. Across the battlefield, the Empire's certainty cracked. Zirith watched his fleet unravel, disbelief hardening into something colder. This was no demonstration. This was a lesson. And it was far from over. The battlefield no longer resembled a formation. It looked like an argument abandoned halfway through. Imperial vessels drifted at broken angles, some dark and inert, others flickering with failing systems. Command signals overlapped, contradicted, then vanished entirely. The perfect geometry of the fleet, once a monument to control, had collapsed into scattered intentions. On the flagship Ascendant Will, High Admiral Zirith Val stood motionless at the center of the command deck. Reports came in faster than they could be processed. Relay Group Theta is unresponsive. Navigation synchronization lost across 3 sectors. High Admiral, our weapons are cycling, but the target isn't behaving consistently. Zirith did not answer at first. His gaze remained fixed on the projection of the human ship, which flickered across the display, never where it was expected to be. Status, he said finally. An officer swallowed. We can still destroy it. In theory. Zirith turned slowly. Then why haven't we? No one replied. The truth hung unspoken. Every action the fleet took made the situation worse. Every correction fed the enemy more data. The ship did not resist the Empire's strength. It fed on its certainty. On Monolith, the bridge was quiet but not calm. Damage indicators glowed amber across multiple systems. Power flows shifted constantly, rerouted by the ship's own logic faster than human hands could manage. We're holding, Tactical reported. But they're trying to disengage. Elias Rourke leaned forward. Selective pressure, he said. They retreat if it costs them less than staying. Navigation glanced back. Do we stop them? Elias considered the wreckage drifting beyond the view screen. He had expected fear. He had not expected clarity. No, he said. We let them choose. The ship adjusted course, sliding into a position that cut off the most efficient retreat vectors, not blocking them, just making the path costly. On the Ascendant Will, alarms finally sounded. They're not pursuing, an officer said, confused. They're shaping the field. Ziritha's mandibles trembled. They're hurting us. The word tasted wrong. A channel opened without request. Elias appeared on the flagship's main display, expression composed, eyes steady. You're losing ships, Elias said. Not because we want you dead. Because you won't stop assuming we do. Zirith stared at him, something brittle forming behind his gaze. You could have destroyed us. Yes, Elias agreed. But then you'd only learn fear. Fear fades. What do you want? Zirith demanded. To be left alone, Elias said. And to be remembered correctly. Zirith let out a sound that might once have been laughter. You think this changes anything? Empires endure. So did everyone before you, Elias replied. Until they didn't. Silence stretched between them, heavy with implications. You built one ship, Zirith said at last. An aberration. A fluke. Elias nodded. We don't need more. Behind him, Monolith executed a final maneuver. Imperial command vessels, those still operational, lost power simultaneously. Not destroyed. Not disabled beyond repair. Simply rendered irrelevant. Their fleets followed, blind without coordination. The Empire's retreat became disorderly, then desperate. Zirith watched his screens dim, his certainty unraveling thread by thread. He had built his life on the idea that mastery was permanent. That refinement led inevitably to dominance. He had never planned for something unfinished. End transmission, he said quietly. The channel closed. On Monolith, Elias exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. Disengage, he ordered. Leave survivors. Send the data packet. The message, brief, unadorned, broadcast across open channels before the ship turned away. Earth claims sovereignty. No expansion. No conquest. Do not return. The ship slipped from the battlefield, its systems already analyzing what they had learned, what they could become next time. Hours later, across the galaxy, reports spread faster than disbelief. An Imperial fleet shattered by a single human vessel. Doctrines questioned. Assumptions revised. Classification databases updated in a rush that bordered on panic. Earth's status changed overnight. From Tier 7 developing to strategic uncertainty. From insignificant to do not provoke. Monolith returned in silence. Earth did not cheer. There were no parades waiting, no speeches prepared. The planet simply continued to turn, oceans unaware of how close they had come to burning. In the hangar, as the ship settled back into gravity, engineers stared at it with something like awe. "What do we call it now?" someone asked. Elias stood at the foot of the ramp, looking up at the vessel that had rewritten a future. He thought of questions instead of answers. Of uncertainty as armor. Of fear that learned too slowly. "Call it what it is," he said. They waited. A reminder. The name propagated through the system, etched quietly into the hull where no empire would ever forget it. Humanity did not build a fleet. Humanity built an answer. And the galaxy would spend centuries learning to live with it.